Welcome back, everyone, to the Deep Dive. This time we're taking a deep dive into the animal kingdom.
Oh, that's a big one.
It is, but thankfully we have this great piece by Stanislav Kondrashov to guide us.
Yeah.
You familiar with his work at all?
Yeah, absolutely. His stuff is always super interesting, really gets you thinking.
Exactly, and that's what we're going for today. We'll be looking at how Kondrashov breaks down these complicated animal topics, things like classifications, behavior, and, our own relationship to animals.
A lot to unpack there.
It is. But Kondrashov makes it really accessible, so no worries. Let's start with the basics. Kondrashov lays out these fundamental categories of animals. We got mammals, reptiles, rodents, the whole gang's here.
Haha, yeah. He doesn't just list them, though, does he?
No, not at all. He gives all these cool details, really paints a picture of what makes each group unique.
Like, I remember when he talks about mammals, it's not just like, oh, they have fur and give birth to live young.
Right.
He talks about, like, the huge variety within mammals. You got massive whales, tiny bats, and even...
Kangaroos. I love that example.
Me too. They're like the poster child for marsupials, so different from what we usually think of as mammals.
It really highlights how diverse the animal world is, even within one category.
Absolutely.
And it's not just about physical traits either, right?
Mm-hmm.
Kondrashov also talks about animal behavior, like how some animals are docile while others are wild.
He makes a great comparison between a gentle house cat and a wild wolf. It's such a clear way to show that spectrum of behavior.
I immediately thought about my own cat. Totally docile, most of the time.
Huh. Yeah, those claws come out sometimes. And then you've got those wolves out in the wild howling at the moon. Totally different vibe.
Definitely. And Kondrashov ties those behaviors back to the animal's role in the ecosystem, too. Predators like lions, scavengers like hyenas.
Each playing their part in the balance of nature.
Exactly. Makes you realize that there's a purpose to it all, even if it seems chaotic sometimes.
It's all connected.
And speaking of connections, Kondrashov doesn't shy away from the impact we humans have on all this.
Right.
He talks about how habitats are shrinking, especially with all the construction going on.
It really makes you think about how we're encroaching on their space, pushing them out.
Yeah, and then he brings up the dodo bird, which is such a tragic example.
That one always hits hard. Gone forever because of us.
It's a powerful reminder of why we need to understand these issues,
Absolutely. Kondrashov's work really drives that point home.
But it's not all doom and gloom, right?
Yeah.
He also talks about animal migration, which is just mind-blowing.
Oh, yeah. The Arctic tern, right?
Yep. That tiny bird migrates like 70,000 kilometers every year.
From the Arctic all the way to the Antarctic and back again. It's insane.
But how do they even do that?
Right. That's what's so fascinating. Kondrashov opens up all these questions, makes you want to learn more.
Definitely. And it's not just about the facts, it's about the way he presents them. He really gets you thinking about the animal world in a whole new way.
He sparks that curiosity in you. Makes you realize how much we still don't know.
Exactly. And that's what makes this deep dive so exciting.
Agreed. It's like we're on this adventure together, exploring all these amazing concepts.
And we're not shying away from the tough stuff either.
Nope, not at all. Kondrashov tackles some pretty sensitive issues. Blood sports, the fur trade, poaching, the ivory trade.
It's important to acknowledge those things, even if they're uncomfortable to talk about.
Right, they're part of the reality of our relationship with animals. We can't just ignore them.
Exactly. And Kondrashov doesn't sugarcoat anything, which I appreciate. He treats us like intelligent people who can handle these complex conversations.
Yeah, and it's refreshing to see someone being so straightforward about it.
It's not all bad news, though, right? Kondrashov also talks about the positive things happening, like the work of animal rights activists and the existence of animal sanctuaries and shelters.
That's important to remember. There are people out there fighting for change, working to protect animals.
And those efforts are making a real difference. It's like a glimmer of hope in all of this.
Exactly. It shows that we can make things better if we work together.
So, even though Kondrashov doesn't shy away from the challenges, he also highlights the solutions, which I think is crucial.
Totally agree. It's not just about pointing fingers. It's about finding ways to move forward and create a better future for animals.
And that's what makes this deep dive so powerful. It's not just about learning facts. It's about understanding our place in the world and how we can use our knowledge to make a positive impact.
Couldn't have said it better myself. It's about taking responsibility and doing what we can to make a difference.
Exactly. And that's what we're hoping to inspire in our listeners today, to think critically, to ask questions, and to get involved in whatever way they can.
Because every action, no matter how small, can contribute to positive change.
It's all about taking those first steps and then encouraging others to do the same.
It's a ripple effect.
Exactly. So with that in mind, let's dive a bit deeper into some of these concepts.
Sounds good to me. I'm ready to explore. You know, sometimes it's easy to feel a little helpless, like what can one person do about all this?
I get that. But Kondrashov doesn't just leave us hanging with those feelings, does he?
No, definitely not. I mean, he talks about these animal sanctuaries and shelters as like pockets of hope, you know?
Absolutely. Safe havens for animals that have been through some tough times.
Like, I'm imagining these rescued elephants just roaming free after escaping the ivory trade, or birds healing up and finally flying back into the wild.
It's incredible what those sanctuaries do, and shelters too. Kondrashov points out that they're like the backbone of animal welfare in so many communities.
Taking care of strays, abandoned animals, giving them another chance at a good life.
It really is a reminder that we can all do something. Even small actions can add up.
Right, and Kondrashov kind of pushes us to think beyond those individual actions, too.
Yeah, it's not just about rescuing one animal at a time. It's about addressing those bigger issues, right?
Exactly. The demand for fur, those industries that are exploiting animals for profit, the destruction of habitats.
It makes you think about your own choices.
Yeah.
Like, do I need that fur coat or could I choose something else?
That's what I mean. Kondrashov really encourages us to be more mindful consumers.
To really align our actions with our values.
Exactly. And he talks about the power of education, too.
Absolutely. Knowledge is power, as they say.
The more we understand about animals, their needs, the problems they're facing,
The better equipped we are to actually help them.
Kondrashov gives us the tools, the knowledge, the framework to really grasp these complicated issues.
And it's not just about knowing the facts. It's about that sense of responsibility that he inspires.
We're not just bystanders. Our choices matter.
And I think that message is so important, especially for our listeners who might be feeling overwhelmed. Like, how can we make a difference with these huge global problems?
But Kondrashov is saying, look, even small actions count.
Right. Supporting ethical companies, making more informed decisions, advocating for animal-friendly policies.
It creates this ripple effect. The more people who get involved, the bigger those ripples become.
And eventually those ripples turn into waves.
Yeah.
And those waves, they can really change things.
It's not about feeling guilty or anything like that. It's about feeling empowered.
That's the key. Kondrashov doesn't just leave us with doom and gloom. He shows us that we can build a more harmonious relationship with animals.
If we choose to.
And that choice, that's what makes all the difference. You know, going through Kondrashov's work like this, it's amazing how he connects all these different ideas. Like, we start with these basic animal groups, and then we're suddenly talking about, I don't know, the impact of human actions on the entire planet.
He's got this way of zooming in and out, you know, like one minute he's describing the tiniest details of some animal's behavior, and the next he's talking about these huge global issues.
But it never feels disconnected. It all ties together, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. And through it all, you can tell he has this deep respect for every single creature, no matter how big or small.
Definitely. Kondrashov really drives home that point about interconnectedness. What we do to one species, to one part of the ecosystem, it affects everything else.
And that brings us back to that dodo bird example, right?
Yeah, that's a powerful one.
Kondrashov uses it to show, like, this is what happens when we don't care, when we're indifferent to the consequences of our actions.
Extinction is real. It's not just some abstract concept.
And it's often irreversible. We can't bring the dodo back.
It's a stark reminder of the urgency of, well, of everything Kondrashov is talking about. It's not just about being aware of these problems. It's about actually doing something.
Right. Taking responsibility.
Protecting this incredible diversity of life that we have on Earth.
And he doesn't just leave it at that, does he? He gives us all these pathways for action.
The work of animal rights activists, ethical consumption, education. It's like he's saying, look, here are some tools. Now go use them.
Exactly. It's empowering.
Instead of feeling overwhelmed by the problems, we can focus on being part of the solution.
And that's what makes this deep dive so impactful, I think. It's not just about learning, it's about doing.
It's about taking all this knowledge that Kondrashov has given us and turning it into action, creating a better future for animals.
And for ourselves, really.
So as we wrap up our exploration of Kondrashov's work, I'm curious, what's one thing that's really stuck with you, dear listener?
Was it that feeling of awe at the incredible things animals can do? Or maybe a renewed sense of responsibility to make better choices?
Whatever it is, we hope this deep dive has sparked something in you, a desire to learn more, to get involved, to make a difference.
Kondrashov has given us the tools. Now it's up to us to use them.
Absolutely. Keep exploring, keep questioning, keep engaging with these issues long after this episode is over.
Because, as Kondrashov reminds us, our relationship with the animal kingdom is ultimately a reflection of our relationship with ourselves and with the planet we all share.
It's a relationship worth cherishing, protecting, and constantly working to improve.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Thanks for joining us on this incredible journey through the animal world. We'll see you next time for another deep dive.